From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, August the 8th, 2022. Well, after several days of intense fighting with Israelis across towns and cities in southern and even central Israel needing to take shelter from barrages of rockets from Gaza, a ceasefire was reached between Israel and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the PIJ terror group, last night. The IDF said that after days of escalating threats from the PIJ, it launched a precise intelligence-based preventative military operation targeting top Islamic Jihad commanders, that it took out dozens of PIJ military targets, defended Israelis from rocket attacks, and acted to ensure minimal casualties. The IDF wrote, "We will never tolerate threats of terrorism and will continue to defend Israeli civilians on all fronts." As we reported to you on Friday, after concrete threats of an imminent attack by the PIJ, Israel conducted targeted airstrikes to take out senior commanders of the terror group. The group fired barrages of rockets at Israeli civilians in Israel's south, primarily, but also reaching as far as Tel Aviv and the outskirts of Jerusalem. There was damage reported from rockets, debris, and shrapnel in towns like Yavne and Sderot, and several light injuries as well, including a Palestinian worker at a factory in Ashkelon that was hit. The IDF tweeted more than 1,100 rockets were fired by Islamic Jihad in Gaza over the last 3 days. 990 crossed into Israel, of which 380 were intercepted by the Iron Dome at a 96% success rate. Now keep in mind, the Iron Dome is utilized for rockets that pose a threat over civilian areas, not those determined to fall in open areas. The IDF noted that over 200 rockets from Gaza fell short and landed within Gaza itself, and said that a number of those rockets from the PIJ terror group that misfired were responsible for Palestinian deaths within Gaza, including in the widely reported Jabalia refugee camp, which the IDF called tragic. Palestinian media had claimed it was an Israeli airstrike that killed Palestinian civilians, including children, in Jabalia. Israel, though, stated clearly that there was no Israeli activity in Gaza in that area or at that time. And the IDF shared a radar data map and video showing the Islamic Jihad rocket and the site where it landed in Jabalia. The IDF tweeted, "Over the last 3 days, the IDF carried out precision strikes against Islamic Jihad. Many were delayed or aborted to prevent civilian casualties." Also sharing video of an airstrike against a senior Islamic Jihad commander that was delayed last night because of children in the area. And another video of an airstrike called off because a civilian was seen nearby. The ceasefire agreement reached last night was brokered by Egypt. The Times of Israel reported it did not include the release of PIJ terror prisoners as the terror group wanted. There is also talk that the agreement and the way the conflict was quickly resolved could open a path for progress regarding talks with terror group Hamas in Gaza on the possible return of 2 Israeli citizens it is holding, Avira Mengistu and Hisham al-Sayed, as well as the remains of 2 IDF soldiers it is holding in Gaza, Oron Shaul and Hadar Golden. U.S. President Joe Biden welcomed the news of the ceasefire last night. He said over these last 72 hours, the United States has worked with officials from Israel, the Palestinian Authority, Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, and others throughout the region to encourage a swift resolution to the conflict. My support for Israel's security is long-standing and unwavering, including its right to defend itself against attacks. Over these recent days, Biden said Israel has defended its people from indiscriminate rocket attacks launched by the terrorist group Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And the United States is proud of our support for Israel's Iron Dome, which intercepted hundreds of rockets and saved countless lives. Biden said he supports a thorough investigation of reports of civilian casualties and that Israelis and Palestinians both deserve to live safely and securely and to enjoy equal measures of freedom, prosperity, and democracy. And Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid addressed the public tonight, saying of the military operation, all goals were achieved. The entire military elite of the Islamic Jihad in Gaza was thwarted within 3 days. The Times of Israel citing Lapid saying that during the entire operation, a special effort was made to prevent harming those not involved. The state of Israel, he said, will not apologize for protecting its residents using force. But the death of innocents, especially children, is heartbreaking. Turning to the residents of Gaza and asking them to reject terror and choose peace, Lapid said, there is another way to live. The path of the Abraham Accords, of the Negev Summit, of innovation and economy, of regional development and joint projects. The choice is yours, he said. Your future depends on you. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, August the 8th at 7 o'clock. We have a special in the news for you on this past weekend in Israel. Shachar Azani speaks to the Times of Israel's political correspondent, Carrie Keller-Lynn, who was on the ground in the midst of the rocket attacks on Israel. She shares her analysis of the situation and predictions for the future. At 7:30, author Nessa Rapoport reads excerpts and discusses her new novel, Evening. At 8 o'clock on In the Spotlight, Abigail Pogrebin speaks with the new CEO of the Marlene Meyereson JCC of Manhattan, Rabbi Joanna Samuels, who describes what it was like taking the reins of a major New York Jewish institution in the middle of a pandemic. At 8:30, a look at rabbis and feminism. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Israeli filmmaker Joseph Cedar on L'chaim. At 10, Deborah Lipstadt discusses her book, Anti-Semitism Here and Now. And coming up next, I speak with Judea Pearl, father of murdered journalist Daniel Pearl, who talks about what the recent killing of al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri means for him personally, the concept of justice, and his efforts to call attention to Zionophobia, why he says the fight against it is so critical. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, August the 8th, 2022. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay healthy, stay well.